welcome to the first edition of Cafe Mutual Mindful Musings. Okay, and today, as you can see, our guest is Mr. Vishal Kapoor, CEO of IDFC Mutual Fund. Before I begin my conversation with Vishal, let me just share with you what you could expect to see this evening. Mindful musings are meant to be in depth conversations where we pick up one single topic to talk about with an expert speaker. Okay, so we explore one topic in depth. Why do we do that? Because we hope to generate fresh perspective, which we hope translates into insights for your business. Okay. Having said that, uh, uh, while Vishal and I will be talking, please join us through the chat mode. Share your comments. Please post your questions. I promise I will take in as many questions as possible today. In fact, we have set aside an exclusive 15-20 minutes for Q&A with the audience. So so please get going and share your comments, post your questions. Okay. Uh, now, uh, I want to introduce Vishal. Vishal is familiar to perhaps everyone in this audience. Uh, but let me share a few things about him. Vishal has been in the financial services domain for 25 years. Very few people know that he actually started his career with one of the first entrants in the private sector in the mutual fund space, a company called ITC Needle, which is today somewhere, I think, a part of HDFC Mutual Fund, correct?
That's right.
Vishal? Yeah.
That's
So
right.
Vishal did his schooling from Don Bosco Park Circus, Kolkata, went on to do his college from St. Xavier's, Kolkata, and then he did his PGDM, what we call MBA, from the hallowed Indian Institute of Management, Ahmedabad. He has spent 25 years in BFSI space, starting his career, like I said, with ITC Threadneedle, so which makes him one of the veterans of this industry, though he's much younger. And later he moved to American Express, worked both in India and in New York. Came back to India, joined Standard Chartered, uh, and he spent a good many years there before taking over ITC Mutual Fund as CEO. Uh, so, and today's topic is how to get the most out of AMCs. And I can't think of anyone who can be better qualified to talk about this topic than Vishal. Why? The answer, I think, is obvious. He's been a distributor and he's been on both sides. He's been a distributor for a few years, and now again he's back as a manufacturer. So he understands this. And let me tell you, he was very active while as a distributor. He was instrumental in founding uh, an association of the large distributors in the country. And I know that he was a very active participant and he drove a lot many initiatives there. So he does understand the distribution space as well as anyone else. Uh, the other thing, perhaps, which many people in the audience may not know, is that one of the responsibilities that Vishal has taken up on behalf of AMFI is to expand the uh, distribution network in the country, which is to get more and more distributors to join the mutual fund industry. And I know that he's been working at it, giving it a lot of his time. And I know he feels very passionately about it. I've been fortunate to be have participated with him in a couple of conversations on this. So with that, welcome once again, Vishal.
Thanks, Prem. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Vishal, there are 40 odd AMCs in the country, and there are 40,000 distributors in the country. Okay. And so, what is the nature of this relationship? Is it like a one night stand? या फिर हम साथ साथ हैं मतलब like a Suraj Barjatya movie, we are all there as a happy family, or is it a purely a business relationship? How would you define this relationship?
I think, Prem, we are in Bollywood, so I think the Bollywood influence is probably the strongest for this industry. So, out of the three
Yeah.
options that you gave me, I would say that the Hum Saath Saath Hai is probably the most appropriate for this industry. And, one of the reasons, apart from the numbers, which you rightly pointed out, it's 40 AMCs partnering with 40,000 odd ARNs. But in
Yeah.
practice, roughly about 1 lakh odd individuals, I would say, if you count all the
Yes.
EYNs as well as the sub-franchisees within ARNs, etc. It is a many-to-many relationship. And when it is many, I think most partners tend to have fewer AMCs that they work with than on the other side. AMCs, of course, work with many more partners. But at the heart of the Hum Saath Saath is the fact that, all of us are working towards that common goal, which is, we have the same end investor that we are working towards. So it is far more homogeneous and far more aligned than in many other industries where it tends to be a zero-sum game, where, I win if you lose. In this industry, I think what is very unique is that it is a truly win-win-win situation. Partners or distributors or advisors win if the investor wins, and only if these two win does the AMC win. So I think that's the value chain that I see.
Okay. So you see it as a very meaningful, synergistic, everyone wins kind of a relationship.
At least
Okay.
that's the great opportunity we have.
Okay, that is the great opportunity. No, no, to a large extent, that is correct. In a different context, I have been in conversations with a lot of distributors, advisors across the country, and many of these distributors and advisors deal with other product categories also. And the fondness and the passion that you find for mutual funds uh, is absolutely unique. Uh, so that is something which is remarkable. The kind of respect that the average distributor or advisor has for the industry, the conviction, the passion, the liking, the love for this thing is truly remarkable. So, to some extent, having said that, there are many bones of contention. There are differences. There are differences of perspective. So let's deal with some of them, right, Vishal?
Sure.
Okay.
And very
So,
grateful for that. I think the starting point is a very great advantage we have. And,
yeah,
of course, like in any happy family, there'll always be some issues here and there.
yeah.
And it's always good to be able to talk it out and work that through.
Okay. So one of the things that we're all living in this era of COVID-19. Okay. And one of the businesses which have kind of not seen any disruption at any major level is mutual funds. Perhaps more than any other industry, I would say. Uh, because whole lot of industries, I mean, all of us know hospitality, entertainment, all of them got disrupted, came to a standstill. This was one of the industries where the business operations did not close down for a single day. I don't think they slowed down also, while there was some impact in terms of the inflows and outflows of the business, but business carried on. No one should shop for a single day, not even for an hour. For most people, both on the distribution side and on the manufacturing side, there was a healthy uh, income flowing in because, as we know, distributors earn through trail commissions, which is based on the assets which they've acquired in the past. Similarly, mutual funds earn their fee based on the assets that they have acquired in the past through these distributors. So to that extent, there was no one who saw a major hit in their income. It continued whether you put in any work or not. But having said that, a lot of people found this to be a very good feature about the industry. Also found that many advisors were very appreciative of the efforts which were put in by the different players in the industry body collectively on ensuring that, rejigging the cutoff timings, rejigging some of the processes, procedures, and all that. Would you like to talk about some of them? Because as a manufacturer, you yourself would have done a few things to make the life of your distributors easier.
Right. No, indeed. I think, when we look back, for the magnitude of the challenge we were facing in the early to middle March, I think, knock on wood, we all came out reasonably well. Clearly when the potential lockdown or the work from home was getting discussed in early to mid March, the initial response is first to keep the operations running, because as we all understand, this is a real industry. This is a very, very time sensitive industry. So to that extent, making sure that there are no lags, there are no operational glitches, because this is large sums of money getting invested and traded every day, that is maintained. And of course, once that was stabilized, it was also to work very closely with all stakeholders. And when I say stakeholders, there are regulators, there are custodians, there are registrars, and of course, very importantly, there are our distribution partners who have to work with the end customer, the investor. But I must say that having now gone through it, I would give full credit to all these 3 or 4 stakeholder bodies who came together very quickly in a crisis. And I think a crisis is a great time to really test the strength of our relationship, our passion, our systems, and all of the things that we've been working on. So if you look back, I think our industry is one that has always been at the forefront of adopting technology. And that probably helped us a lot when we had to deal with this crisis. Because most of the tools and processes were already in place, our ability to transition to a remote working environment was relatively simpler. On top of that, I think our partners did a tremendous job in adopting new technology. So when we look at the number of active partners in late March or early April, when the lockdown was getting fully enforced, to now, I think those who were not already on a fully digital platform or some sort of a way to transact electronically have now been able to adopt it. And again, I think all the industry platforms, whether it's the registrars or exchanges or any of the apps that different mutual fund companies themselves run or MFU, all of them came together, provided all the help and advice or the logins or the approvals that were required to get people set up very quickly. So all in all, I would say that, and of course, I must mention that the regulators were very closely involved in helping us through this time. So between the manufacturing
Yes.
body and the regulators, I think the amount of collaboration was unprecedented. So I've definitely not seen the ability to work through weekends and get the important decisions made and implemented quickly to make sure that things were seamless and it could be managed. I don't think any of us going in March anticipated that mid-September we would still be, sitting at home doing this. But that just shows the strength and resilience of the platform that, or the processes that we were able to get done at that point in time.
Great. Okay, Vishal. So far, so good. Uh, Now, let's talk about the different touch points where distributors experience fund houses. Okay, let's take them up one by one. Uh, Number one, let's talk about the role of RMs. Okay, each of the AMCs is represented by an RM who's the face of the company as far as the distributor is concerned. Okay. When I talk to distributors about it, I get very, very mixed feedback from them on what is the value that these RMs add, the quality of RMs. Now, tell us from your perspective, what is it that RMs are meant to do, and how do AMCs ensure that their RMs add value to the distributors while meeting the business goals of the mm, AMCs?
Right. So RMs, as of course the abbreviation commonly stands for relationship managers, are the face of the AMC to our partners, and therefore, they have the very, very complex job in many ways to be pretty much all our functions rolled into one. Because keep in mind, we have to approach it and say that for the partner, the RM is the AMC, and the experience that you have from your RM is how you perceive the AMC, irrespective of what the AMC does very well or poorly, right? It's really the RM who's representing us. And we must also appreciate that the RM is taking questions, queries, or resolving issues that can range from operations to partly legal to partly compliance to, of course, fund management and product related. So the width of knowledge required is quite a lot. So what we do, I think, and this is something that we see commonly across the industry, is that the role of the RM therefore becomes so wide and is ever changing, because regulations as well as the markets are changing all the time. New products, new economic parameters are getting released all the time. A lot of time therefore has to be spent on talking to the RMs and upgrading slash providing the required information to them, so that in turn they can take it forward to our clients who are the partners. It's a very wide road. It's a complex road. And clearly, the more we invest behind these great individuals, the better the AMC gets represented to the partner. Of course, like we do, I'm sure many AMCs would therefore spend a lot of time in helping the RMs develop, because through that we can hopefully get a better representation of our products and tools across to our customers, which are the partners. I'd love to get feedback from our partners. We try and do that periodically. We encourage our partners to try and tell us where we could do better. I know Cafe Mutual ran a survey as well, very valuable for us to get objective feedback on what are the areas that we can do better on. And this is an evolution. We have to accept that only if we get some feedback or we can self-identify some areas of opportunity, we can keep improving. So this is a continuous journey, and I think we made great strides in that over the many years.
Okay. Yeah, one of the things that all AMCs try to do for their distributors is somewhere try and make their conversations with their clients a lot easier. Okay. So have you at IDFC worked on any pieces, any tools of communication, any engagement that the distributors in turn can use to, talk to their clients? Have you worked on anything?
No, absolutely. I think, I would think that, specific to our AMC, as does many other AMCs, we have a whole host of tools that have been developed. And the way we look at doing this is that, when you look at mapping all aspects of the value chain or the relationship that we have with the customer, right? So there is an acquisition phase for the partner. And this is, I'm looking at it as the business that the partner is running. So you have to acquire customers, which is where the IAP as well as any acquisition tools come in. Now, at IDFC, we noted there that, the old method of doing IAP was doing presentations and telling people about savings and investing and how mutual funds would be better. And, that has its own benefits, but it has its limitations as well. Most people are, have to be forced into the hall and to, hear a presentation for 45 minutes on something that is generally boring in terms of being finance and investing. So we converted this problem into a communication challenge to a noted director. Say, how would you do it? And this noted director worked with us to create some short movies. Now, of course, if you go to a customer and say, why don't you see this short movie? I'm hoping that it is far more enticing than listening to a presentation. And the movie is available on YouTube, so you can do it at your convenience. So that gave, for example, the series of One Idiot, and before that, the Bachat Nived Bharat movies, and then the Return of One Idiot. So 3 movies were created to try and help with the acquisition phase of the customer. And these are even today very popular from the feedback we get. So people use it. We see how many views we are getting on YouTube, etc. So this is something that is, in that sense, timeless. Similarly, when we looked at other aspects of the journey, for each of that aspect, we've looked at it modularly to say, where's the value chain? And in each part of the value chain, what can we do to try and help? Because keep in mind, I'll go back to what we started with. This is win-win-win. Only if our partners win, will we be able to move ahead. So the second part that comes in, one of the challenges we faced early on was SIP is great, but it's very difficult to people for them to understand the concept of compounding. Keep in mind, the human brain generally thinks linearly. So it's a straight line. Compounding is a very difficult concept for us to visualize. So we took that very simple concept and converted it into the SIP pen. It's a simple tool. It's a compounding table on a pen. But the feedback we got was absolutely fascinating, where people were being sort of, testing out an SIP with 2,000 rupees for 5 years. They were able to upsell it to maybe 10,000 rupees for 25 years, just looking at the compounding table, because that allowed you to anchor a goal and have a much richer discussion. And that's something that even today, I keep handy. Because every time you have to look at, okay, how much something could do, it's very easy to just look it up on an SIP pen. That's freely available to our partners, and through them, a lot of conversations are getting triggered about why you should have SIPs, how compounding works, and therefore, how can you meet a certain goal that you have in terms of saving. So for each
are you
aspect,
distributing these pens?
yes,
Sorry,
we
are
are.
you distributing these pens free? The pen looks nice also.
It is. It's a great pen. I use it.
Yeah,
I'm encouraging all of our partners and everyone to use it because it's a great
yeah.
conversation
मेरे को भी
starter.
भेजना.
Absolutely, sir. Done. We
Okay,
have different
okay,
values as
okay.
well
Sorry.
based on what type of clients you deal with. So you can customize it to
Okay.
who you deal with. Similarly, when there are complex communication challenges we have, again, we've tried to be innovative in communication to break it down into simple things. So for example, how do you break into a conversation? And we have created puzzles and quizzes and games rather than have, the standard presentation format, because we have to go in accepting that we in the world of finance work and, through so much of jargon that the customer feels overawed talking to us. So the attempt has been simplify, tangibilize to the extent possible, make it very real, make it experiential, and a whole host of tools in that area have been developed by us. As an example, the IAP we started with a movie. What we did last year, and we are taking this further, is that for the new generation who may not sit through a 30-minute movie, we've created a little video game. So you can learn the basics of finance through a game. And in this entire world of people being online and not having that attention span, that may work even better. So at every aspect, I think our attempt has been understand the challenge that our partners facing, see if we can do something about it. I think we have a great team who's innovating all the time. Many ideas work, some may not work, but that's fine. And we try and put it out in front of our partners. I would encourage everyone to leverage it a lot more. It's available, it's free, it's for you. So please use it fully.
Okay. Okay. Now I come to something which is uh, at the heart of the relationship, which is commissions and what is paid out to distributors. Okay. Now, let me ask you, Vishal. Now, as a distributor, you would have obviously wanted to have made sure that your bank would be getting what you felt was then you were driving a hard bargain. Okay. Uh, to the advisors and the distributors who are here today, what is your advice to them? How did you make it work? and what are the lessons that they can draw from it?
Okay, so I'll be very candid, Prem. I think as a distributor, the first impulse is, how do I get more from this AMC who's sitting across the table with me? So when I started
Okay.
off, that was naturally the impulse, and I'm talking many years back, because the relationship is almost, again, you're approaching it as a zero-sum game. That, there is so much that the customer pays. If I can take, he's taking more, let me take a bit more from his pot, or, and find a way to sort of extract more mileage for my work, in a sense. Now that approach over time, at least for me, even while I was a distributor, evolved because once you saw the enormity of the opportunity, you realize that being tactical at this in this business is probably the biggest challenge or the biggest fallacy that one can have as a distributor. We're all in the long-term business. We are advocating that for the customer. We can't ourselves as manufacturers and partners be thinking tactical and expect the customer to think long-term. Now, when you shift that approach to being long-term, 2 or 3 things started happening, at least in my thinking as a distributor, that is. Firstly, I said that more than tactical promotions or tactical advantages that may have, where I'm trying to drive a bargain for this quarter or this month because I have a certain revenue challenge or something, which is all very, very, in the large scheme of things, this is really, very marginal. It's rounding off error. But how do you get the main business right? And to get the main business right, we agreed even in those days that we would have a certain sharing arrangement. And once you agree on the sharing arrangement, a lot of the noise about scheme level promotion and what are you charging, what am I getting, etc. goes away. And because that goes away, you're able to focus on what one should be focusing on, which is building the business. Because you're not worried every day about, am I getting paid fairly or not. So I would advocate that a sharing ratio, irrespective of the scheme, is probably a good way to think about it. So if you and I agree that, look, whatever we charge the customer on a DTR basis or whatever is the right level to look at, let's share it in this ratio. And whether the TR is high or low, whether it is changed or it's not changed, we don't have to keep looking over our shoulders every time we want to move ahead and worry about whether I'm getting paid fairly or not. Once that is out of the picture, I think it really opens up a lot more opportunity of working with the AMC. And that's what I would encourage a lot of our partners to do, that, first settle that big, elephant in the room once and for all. And once that is done, one can look at a huge, beautiful picture of all the other things that are available. Now, I will also suggest here, Prem, that, it's almost one of the mistakes I was making going in as a distributor. I would go and ask someone about, if an AMC were to come and see me, I would say, okay, what do you have to offer? It's almost like, here's a salesman and you're going to look at, okay, tell me about your wares. And he would tell me about, this fund looks good because of this economic, response or this investment thesis. And we are doing a promotion and I'll pay you this to sell this. I think that's really getting it wrong. If I'm the distributor, one of the things we started, learning and did later on in our journey was that we turned the question upside need, right? So instead of what do you have to offer as an AMC, I'm now looking inside and saying, okay, for my business, because this is all about building my own business as a distributor, what do I need? And in my need, I've got all the, like I said, the modules, right? Do I need new customers? Or for my existing customers, do I need better tools to be able to upsell them or, cross-sell better? Or is it the investment reporting area? Or is it operations or reconciling? Or is it in managing behavior, keeping my customers because they're getting, moved away, they're moving on to other platforms? Which is the area where I have the biggest need right now? And that can change. And then I started looking at saying, okay, which is the AMC or which are the set of individuals who can help me with that area, which I need to grow my business, rather than looking at, what do you have to offer? That simple shift, I think, is a powerful one. It's repivoting our own thinking. And then I think, each of us have as a distributor, I think we have wonderful AMCs with great strengths, and you can then almost pick and choose. So if you like, for example, you want to acquire new customers through IAP and you think IDFC does a great job, come talk to us. Or if you think that, you need better market information and this AMC does a great job of training people or my team, or you need behavioral insights and IDFC has some series, come talk to us. Of course, there might be other things that you need, which some other AMC may be very good at. So it's in that sense, just repivot to ask yourself, what do you need and which AMC can do that best for me?
But still, Vishal, from your experience on both sides, tell us a couple of tactical things that will work. Okay, in principle, we got your point, which was about have a set sharing formula. We got that loud and simple. Okay, but what are the couple of things which work? What is it that the AMCs are looking for, which a distributor, if he kind of meets those expectations, what are the things that can be played up in a manner of speaking?
So I think all aspects of this value chain can be played up because there's a humongous amount of opportunity there. And why I'm saying this, Prem, is, we step back, right?
Okay.
We've done a fantastic job in the mutual fund industry. Hats off to the entire ecosystem, right? But at the end of the day, we still have only about slightly more than 2 crore individual investors. Right? One of the closest industries to us, insurance, has 35 crore individual investors. So we have 2 and they have 35. It's not us versus them, but the client or the customer exists, right? So the biggest question for us has to be, how do we leapfrog from 2 to 5 to 10 to 30? Now, what's required to do that has to be a question right on top of all our minds. And therefore, client acquisition and working with the client through the value chain so that they are brought in for the right reasons and they stay back for the right reasons has to be an imperative for our entire industry. And I think we need to do a lot more of that. So that's one big area. The second area when it comes to investing is investing for the right reason. Right? So often we find that, you look at the best performing funds over the last whatever period, few months, 1 year, 5 years, 3 years, etc. And then you keep switching or changing based on the next one that works for you. And, I think study after study has told us that strategy is bound to eventually be suboptimal given all the other costs, etc., and everything involved. So going in for the right reason, keeping the core of the investment hypothesis, which is your goal planning or the asset allocation target that you have or the savings target you have, all of that is still very, very key. So at some level, we may have all these sophistications around the industry, but at its core, it's very, very simple. It's about offering a product to more people. And once they experience it and they're happy with it, keep them with us so that they can benefit and we can benefit with them.
Okay. Now I come to, when I talk to distributors, there are certain concerns that distributors seem to have. Okay. Now, one is in this whole thing, this intention about the role that the AMCs foresee for distributors in future. Many believe that AMCs are trying to cut out, if I may put it that crudely, cut out distributors altogether, and their intention in future is to acquire all the clients directly. How would you address this concern?
So this is, I frankly wouldn't understand, to be honest, where this concern originates from. I'll share 2 reasons why I think this should be an unfounded concern. See, first we must understand that the AMC is in no position to service the customer. When I say service, to advise or to offer anything to the customer. Because keep in mind, we all understand and we know through all our experiences, the customer's investment portfolio is far more complicated than any one AMC's products. So if any view that I have of the customer, it's a very small sliver of what the customer's overall picture looks like. And the best person to look at the overall picture and provide value is the advisor or the intermediary, right? So if the AMC has only 5 or 10% view of the total assets and we know nothing about the 90%, how can we advise? How can we even add any value? So we are at a huge disadvantage. At a disadvantage like this, why would you even attempt the possible, even if there was any benefit, right? The second, I'll come back to the benefit. There must be some benefit, there must be some motive. I fail to understand, at least I must humbly accept, I don't understand what is the motive for an AMC to go direct. Because we must keep in mind that if you believe that the AMC is a well-run business, as a business manager, I will of course have to look at my revenue as well as my cost. Let us understand very clearly the revenue to an AMC, whether it's a direct client or whether it's a regular plan client, it's the same. It is no different. So we are absolutely agnostic to how the customer or how the assets come in. We get paid to manage that money and we incur certain cost to that. So the starting point is what is the asset and what is the net margin post the distribution payout that we're getting. From an accounting standpoint, it has to be the same, because the regular TR minus distribution expenses is equal to direct, and which is what the AMC starting point or top line is. So if there's no motive and there is no advantage, I fail to understand why an AMC would want to try and do this. But again, I may be wrong, because I'm just simply saying, look, I don't understand why this concern is coming. People must have had some experiences, which I will not, sort of sweep aside. But that's an individual concern one must sit and address.
Okay. I know that this is something which has come up in the past in some forum. You may have heard this concern at some forum or the other. I also keep hearing this thing about client poaching and ensuring, integrity of data. So a distributor's got you certain business, and now obviously the nature of his relationship with you is confidential. Okay, how, what commissions you get, which are the clients, and so there's certain degree of concern. How do you as a AMC, what would you tell them to reassure them that the data is safe? And
Right. So firstly, like I said, this relates back to the previous question around direct versus regular. Firstly, we have no motive or no benefit on approaching this customer directly, because there's nothing more to gain. In fact, if at all, we risk our relationship with you as the partner. So why would we do that without any benefit to us? Now, I do hear, you're absolutely right. We do hear about instances where someone gets upset about, some data being leaked, maybe not to the AMC, but to someone else. And that's what I keep hearing, that, this was my client and how come this other distributor got hold of this client and somehow it leaked through the AMC is the belief. Now, the fact is we don't know. If we were to know, I will commit to you that the action that is required will be taken. But we must keep in mind that there are so many elements of that data being, having traveled. Of course, as a distributor, if one of my large clients that that are somehow prized, his or her data got leaked to some other distributor through an AMC is my belief, and then that distributor did something, I would be very upset. It's very natural. But whether it's the AMC or whether it's something else in the value chain is very difficult to pinpoint. We must realize this is again going to be one of those things where we have to keep getting better and better. As long as it is not systematic, therefore it's not being done at an institutional level. If it is done at a local anecdotal level, I think we have to deal with it case by case by case. So if someone is doing something that is not kosher, we should absolutely bring it to the attention of the industry or to the relevant people and address it. It's very important, because financial services, and especially this industry, has to be based on trust and integrity. And any breach in that is not something that we should tolerate. Whether it's our agents like the registrar or custodian or any other service setup, or whether it's our own employee, I think each AMC will sign up to say we will take the relevant action because we don't want any breach of trust. The challenge is, how do you specifically identify, like with any of these things, and where you can identify, I'm telling you, action will be taken.
Okay. Now, one of the other things that distributors complain about is this reconciliation of commissions business. What was paid to me and what was actually owed to me, and how was it explained to them? That seems to be a very widespread problem. Okay. So why do you think, what is, where the genesis of this problem, and what can the industry do to fix this problem?
This is something.
Because I know for a fact that many distributors, particularly the uh, individual advisors and distributors, uh, they've actually, many of them don't even attempt it. So they say, "Yeah, it's not really worth a while." And there are very
Right.
few of them who have cracked the system of reconciling the commission. This seems to be
Right.
an irritant. So
Yeah. No, that's very true, and I've personally struggled with this as a distributor as well, because in a banking, have to accrue for the accounting and then reconcile versus the payments received, and therefore there should be no recon error, and that's something we would struggle with over the months, year after year after year. To my mind, the genesis of this is that, and like with any bit of flexibility, there's always a bit of cost. So we were so, and when you say we, the entire industry, whether it's the distributor or the manufacturer, we were so inventive and so innovative with the various type of commission schemes, as well as the changes that we brought into the payment cycle. And keep in mind, over the years, the regulations have also changed with layers and layers and differences in the way commissions get paid or calculated. Even fees gets paid and calculated. That it has turned out to be a humongously complicated exercise. So the choice now becomes that every time things change, you have to keep upgrading to the new change. Of course, the R&T as well as some of the larger distributors keep doing that. And it's really, again, you have to keep catching your tail every time it changes once again, because then again you have to make the change and you have to test it, and then everything in the past has to be reconciled. So it is very complex, there's no question. But that complexity to me has come because we wanted flexibility, and we've been very innovative with all sorts of slabs and payouts and target based sort of commissions and things on top of the other, and if you do this and that happens, that they're very, very complex. Now the good news, I think, is one, technology has got better, so we should be able to help. And second, the entire transmission through the new accounting as well as the TR mechanism we have in the industry is far more simpler now. So my plea to the industry would be, let's simplify. Of course, what's happened in the past, you'll have to just wait and work with that in the past, but at least going forward, keep it very simple. A simple formula which says, look, if you earn X, I will take, X into Y, is a very simple way. AMCs get paid on the same basis when we get our fee. So it's the same basis that can transmit to the partners as well. That's the simplicity we have to work on. Because I do think we spend inordinate amount of time working on catching that last 1% or 2% potentially. And again, I don't know if it's 1 or 10. And instead of spending the time looking at clients and building our business. So we have to simplify. Technology is helping us. And the new accounting in the system, where there's no upfronts and any promotions are not allowed, etc., actually helps us to keep things simple and clean.
okay, okay. Now there are some questions and comments which are coming up. So Vishal, let's move over to that.
Sure.
Okay. Now there is one question which is from Gaurav Malik. Why not have the same commissions for all distributors? I know for a fact that at least two fund houses have that. What are your views?
So I would leave it to the to each fund house, to be honest, because if you think about it, across most industries, that would not be the norm. You would have, and again, whether it's right or wrong is a different debate altogether, because to some extent it may be just the economics of how business happens. It tends to be that the larger or the wholesale distributors tend to have a larger share than the retail distributors. Now, whether it's right or wrong is another debate. It's just a matter of saying how is the industry developed, and scale does give you some amount of benefit. So, you know, the other good thing, Prem, is that, and Gaurav, is that as you'll realize, we are a hyper competitive industry, because like we established, there are 40 AMCs competing very, very aggressively. And some of these things, when it gets adopted by a critical mass, it becomes the norm. So to some extent, you can't be an outlier, even if it is the right thing, because then you are out of the market. So we have to, at some level, also respect the market. And the market is not what either you and I directly make. It's what the collective forces sort of shape up. So I'll be happy, frankly, if the market shapes into a situation where it is as simple as clean, because it helps all of us, because then we want to move on to more productive things to discuss. But till that time, we have to respect what the market forces have evolved us into. And there are some good reasons why, the larger players may say that I deserve more for all of the various other things that they may be doing, which the smaller players may not see. So one thing I want to ask, in fact, Prem, you've been in the industry as well. Why do
Yeah.
the larger players believe they should earn more? If you answer that question, we'll answer this question as well. Why should smaller distributors not get the same as the larger ones?
Okay, I'll duck the question if it was a question for me. No, but I guess in as in many walks of life, in fact, when we are on the other side as consumers, we like to get a better deal because we are ordering in bulk. So we like to get. So I guess. Uh, okay, now there is a couple of comments. One from Vardarajan and one from Ranjan Dixit. Both of them are actually complaining about the quality of RMs. So they want to convey to you that our AMC is aware that there is the quality of RMs is deteriorating over a period of time. Okay, so that's one feedback for you. Uh,
So that's thankful feedback.
and
I'd love to get
and
your
there is
ideas on how we could improve. I'd love to. So, please feel free, write to me directly on what we should do, whether it's IDFC or whether it's collectively, what we should do to attract better quality RMs that can serve you better.
okay, great. And the other one is it's a suggestion from Ranjan Dixit that your RM should be equipped. He's not talking about you specifically. He's generally saying industry, the AMC RMs should be equipped with ample knowledge, and they should be able to help, uh, the distributors make the right informed decisions about what schemes are doing well and what are not. So that was another suggestion. Uh,
Right.
okay, now there is a question from Amit Trivedi. Can a mutual fund impose fresh load or increase the load beyond the level mentioned in the offer document?
Load.
Yeah.
Firstly, I don't think it can. Loads, of course, are, I'm assuming you're looking at, yeah, so, the short answer is no, you can't. You can't go beyond the offer document.
Okay, Pankaj Parmar has a suggestion for all the people in the audience here. Rather than depending on RMs, why shouldn't distributors improve themselves? Okay, now
In fact, just on that point,
Amrinder Singh.
Prem, just on that point, I
Yeah.
think that's, Pankaj's point is very valid. Uh, and we have to think about it, as a continuous process. So we spend a lot of effort in upgrading ourselves. across the management, RMs, all people within the AMC, we spend a lot of time training ourselves and, sharing information and having calls and debating, discussing. We would like to see a lot of that with the IFAs and the distributors as well. Now, I'm not saying that that doesn't happen, but what you will see is a very direct correlation between some of the most informed distributors and their success rate. So if one thing I can share with you, again, just my experience as a distributor, when we had, within the bank, we had lots of RMs, that correlation was really very, very stark. The best informed got the best customers staying with them for the longest time and the biggest part of the wallet share. So any investment in upgrading your knowledge and skill in this industry is very valuable. Use the AMCs and their tools and techniques and notes and information. We try, for example, very hard to try and give you actionable data, charts and things and simple data points that you can then take to your customer to convince them. So leverage that fully. And that's one thing you should demand out of your AMC. What's the problem you're facing and how can the AMC come and help solve it with you is one approach I would advocate. I think we lost Prem. So I think just in the interest of, sorry.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can now.
Okay. Now, earlier you talked about certain tools which you made for distributors for them to engage with their clients. Are these tools available for co-branding?
Yes, they are. They are. Absolutely, they are. They are. In fact, we would highly recommend that, you can do that. We've now, tried to scale it up because we got so many requests for it. And, doing it piecemeal is always very, very cumbersome. You can take it only to a few people and it's, very logistically heavy. So what we've been trying to work on now is to make it automated and use technology. And we will be sharing some of those details with our partners very soon. But I would highly recommend use these things. I'll give you an example, Prem, just to illustrate how this might work, right? So a few years back, this is maybe late 18, early 19, a lot of our IFAs said that, no, sir, abhi SIP ka return bhi kam ho gaya hai, and how do I, retain a lot of our SIPs with customers? If you remember in the 15, 16, 17 boom, a lot of new SIPs came in. And these investors are not now seeing positive returns. And therefore, they are stopping it and they're blaming me and they're saying, ab kya karu? So we worked on the data and we came up with a campaign called SIP Icons, where through a story which highlighted some very famous people who did not start very well, we established that if you look at the history of SIPs, and we just took an index as the example of how, how that index would have moved, even where the first 5 years, if you did an SIP in the index, you had negative returns. Over the next 5 years, you actually got such massive outperformance that on the full 10-year period, you ended up making more money than when you had the first 5 years as being very, very solid. So the fact is that the law of averages catches up. Compounding, over the 10-year period, which is what, one should be looking at least when you're advocating SIPs, all of that plays out. Now, that simple table, we got feedback that from a lot of partners was very powerful. We made videos out of it. They could send it across to their customers, and the customer said, samajh mein aa gaya. Even if it's negative for the first 3, 4, 5 years, it's not such a big concern. So my point is, this is market data. It's nothing specific to our funds or any specific, AMC or partner. Use some of these tools to do the right thing for your customer. Leverage your AMC for that.
Okay. Now there is one suggestion from Vipul Shah. He says, now it's high time to change cutoff timings from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. for equity fund schemes. So this is a suggestion that he's given. You have any thoughts on that?
So it is getting discussed. I think we of course have to consult with the industry body as well as the regulator, but it is definitely on the table getting discussed.
Great. Now, again, Vipul Kumar Shah has another suggestions. Limits imposed by CAMS of rupees 10 lakh per month for mutual fund transactions through my CAMS app should be removed now.
Right.
So
So,
that is
so yes,
another
I think,
suggestion that he has.
yeah. So these are again, these are things that I think with usage and over time, one can keep, making it easier and simpler,
Hmm.
so that, at least initially when it is, launched, mostly you will have to
Hmm.
keep it tighter. But over time, I think as things remain stable, one can increase the limits.
Okay, now I think Bishwadeep has a comment. Uh, he says it has come to be known that MFD's nominees have to get ARN within 6 months from the demise of the MFD. Isn't that a setback for MFDs? Please throw light on it. So AMFI is given a 6 months windows within which the successor has to get a ARN for him to continue and earn trail commission from the deceased MFT's this thing. So, what is your view? You think would you like to make a recommendation to AMP to extend it? Clearly, Vishwajit feels that it is too less. 6 months is too less.
No, so I can definitely take it to the Amphibian committee who's worked on it, and engage and see what would be the right time frame. But we must appreciate also that there are some both regulatory and legal reasons why trailer commission should be paid to an AN or some registered intermediary. So therefore, to be able to receive that consideration, one has to be registered. If 6 months is not the right time frame, what would be the right time frame becomes the further discussion point. But definitely open to thought and feedback on what should be the way to work on this. And I think, Prem, I must say that the good thing that I've noted over the last 20-25 years is this engagement between the 3 or 4 stakeholders, which is improved dramatically, especially over the last 3 or 4 years, I would say, between the regulator, AMFI, and the entire distribution community. And that I think is a great signal for me that we have a much more healthier industry now. So we should challenge, we should come back with feedback, we should be vocal about what we think, because there are ways to be able to put the right ideas for discussion so that everyone benefits. So by all means, please share your ideas with us, and we'll be happy to look at them, come back and see what we can do about them.
Okay, Ramchandra Rao feels that the AMCs have a bias towards direct plans through fintech companies because of the volume that such platforms can generate. So that is one feedback from Ramchandra Rao. You would like to say something,
Right. So
Vishal?
yeah, so like I had explained earlier, I think for the AMC, the AUM and the client, whatever is the route for that person or the individual to come, does not matter. It is money to be managed to the best of our effort and ability, and a customer to be serviced to the best of our effort and ability. And like I explained earlier, if there is no motive to differentiate, there is no benefit to us to differentiate, and two, there is really no advantage for the AMC, then I would ask that as a rational AMC business, why would one do that? And when you look at volume, even today, when you look at the top 100, distributors or partners, etc., you will see that the volume is still in the traditional space, much more than the sort of direct space as we see it. Keep in mind, we are talking about individuals here, not corporates. So that when you look at the individual
Yeah.
picture, I think it is still very much in favor of distributed or advised business.
Okay. Okay. Now there is uh, there's one specific question for IDFC. You have a Sati app. Uh, so according to Shanmukam Lokanathan, there is no provision for additional purchase, redemption, SIP details of products. What are your comments? He says your app does not give any, has no provision for making additional purchase, redemptions, SIPs, and nor are any product detail available.
So we'll take you through it, Shanmugam, once again. But the idea is that, and the app is just an example of how, in one sense, mutual funds (AMCs) have responded to a customer need. The partner said that we want an app. To my mind, having so many different AMCs apps may not be the best way, but if you need an app and it has some benefits, like for example, your recon, etc., and MIS can be directly with an AMC, then definitely there is benefit in having apps. And so we have a app. We also have a partner site on our website where you can log in and get a lot of things. If you don't want an app, you can just log in and get a lot of your information. These are things that we continually upgrade. So some features keep getting added based on how we get feedback. Some of the features you mentioned may be available, so I'll have someone talk to you to see how you can leverage that. And some more information keeps getting added. So like we said, it's a journey. We wanted to get some of the basic things right first, and then we keep building on it. More things are coming on the app is what I'll share with you. And a lot of exciting, interesting things that can really help you build your business. And for those who have not as yet taken advantage of the app, I would.
Okay, now there's a suggestion.
Yeah.
Okay, there's a suggestion from Dhruv Patil. He says that all AMCs should make the commission payouts on a fixed predetermined date, which could be the 7th or 9th, rather than have them scattered all over the month. So this is some feedback which is there for, I think, the entire industry to ponder over. Uh, uh, the other suggestion, or rather question, is from Rangarajan Mathivanan. He says, is there any proposal to abolish B30 incentive? And because he's read that all distributors should be encouraged and incentivized to bring new customers across the country, and retail IFAs must be given additional booster. What's your reaction to it? Is there any proposal to, first of all, abolish B30 incentive?
Not that I'm aware of. So I won't be able to comment because I don't know about it.
Okay. Fair enough. Okay. And yeah, yeah, so I think we've addressed many of the important queries. There are some very specific questions related to the performance of some of your schemes. I'll skip that because our discussion is really not today. Our focus of discussion is not the performance of the schemes of IDFC. It's more on the uh, how to get more out of your AMC. So, all in all, a wonderful discussion, Vishal. I really enjoyed having it, and there were lots of
quick before we sign off. One quick
please.
thought I wanted to share with the audience here, and something that I learned in my distribution journey, and something I continue to see with the most successful distributors. Many of them will be on this on this webinar. But in case they are not, or in case some of our participants today haven't seen that, I think it's very important to see. As a distributor, I think one has to recognize that unless you have the majority of the client's wallet share, your role in the customer's life may be not as good as it could be, or may not be as impactful as it could be. So as an example, if I'm helping the customer with 70% of her wallet, then I have a much larger influence or a role or relevance in that person's life than when I'm advising only 10% of the customer's wallet, right? So is that something that we all accept, that larger the influence I have or the oversight I have on the wallet share, the better my ability to add value to the investor. Now you take that and you superimpose that with where is the customer's wallet today? And I think if you look at any data across India, for an average retail customer, 80% of the wallet is still in some form of fixed income or debt, whether it is insurance, which are, in the fixed income type of traditional plans, or PF or FDs or bank or whatever else, right? So how is it that if a lot of IFAs, when I look at the all India picture for IFAs, right, 85% of the assets of all India IFAs is in equity. Now, if that 85% only represents 20% of the customer's wallet, then aren't we missing out on the larger part of the customer's wallet? And therefore, in turn, missing out the full impact and relevance we can have in the customer's life. How can you be important when you're only dealing with less than 20% of the customer's overall wallet? What about the remaining 80%? Is it that someone else is doing a better job than you? The answer is no. Who is doing that better job than you in advising people on the debt portion? Is it the bank manager who's taking the fixed deposit receipt, or is it an insurance agent, or is it a PF or a post office? Who's getting a better job done than you? You also superimpose that with the most successful distributors. When you look at the top 50 distributors in the country, the bulk of their assets are in fixed income, 65%. Only 35% is in equity. So you have the top guys having the bulk of assets in fixed income, the smaller players and the overall market having very small proportion in fixed income. We are all talking about revenue margins going down. We are all talking about how do we grow the business and how do we get scale, how do we get profitability when TERs have come down, etc. One of the biggest opportunities we have to address better is how do we grow the wallet share? And to our mind, we've done a good job in growing wallet share through equity. We now have to do an even better job in growing wallet share through fixed income products. Look at every large and successful distributor that you can look up to, whether it's a private wealth player or whether it's some of the leaders in the industry, and look at their mix of assets. You will recognize that saving and protecting capital is one large part of an investment need, which is not gone away, and you can have a very meaningful impact over there. It represents the bulk of the customer's assets, so there's no reason why you should not participate there. We've been undertaking very interesting campaigns, training programs, tools and techniques to help you with that. I can understand that with what has happened in the debt market over the last couple of years, you may be a bit tentative about it. You may be a bit circumspect about it, but that doesn't mean that the customer is not buying fixed income. So get in, partner, whether it's us or with anyone else. We are promoting a concept called SIFI, which is SIP in fixed income. There's no reason why you shouldn't be saving through fixed income as well. Recurring deposit in a bank is such a popular product. It's something people do. You can meet your allocation through a simple mix of equity and debt. So that is one straightforward way for you to increase wallet share and therefore your own earnings. I will want to leave that, Prem, before I leave, because as a large distributor in the past, I do know that protection of savings and capital is a large need that one should not overlook, especially in these times when people want safety, security, and our partners have to see revenue growth.
Okay, great. Yeah, wonderful to kick off this entire series with you, Vishal. You've been very forthright, and I've actually got many comments for the way and the honesty with which you've dealt with these questions. So thanks for being there with us today. And
My pleasure.
On your last note, you were talking about how distributors need to increase their wallet share, and largely on the debt side. So there's immediately another feedback which I think we should take note of. Understanding of debt is not as easy as equity. If AMC provides necessary training on debt, we will focus on it. There is a knowledge gap on debt front. That's a very good point made by Rangarajan Machiavel. So this thing. So the comment from Suresh Pura, always a pleasure to listen to Vishal sir, and we will close the proceedings of the day here. And thank you, Vishal, once again
Thank
for
you.
being with us. And, and thank you, our audience, for being with us and for posting your comments, asking these questions, and attending. Uh, so, our intention is purely to provide you, bring you a new perspective. And to me, many of the things which Vishal did point out today in our discussion made a lot of sense. One is clearly not be very short-sighted or tactical in your approach towards dealing with AMCs. AMCs have different strengths. Do you work with the AMCs to leverage those strengths? They could be in the area of training, they could be in the area of products, they could be in the understanding of behavioral sciences, they could be knowledge-based, they could be actual interactive tools. So that is one very important point that Vishal had made, which I quite like, which all of us should take advantage of. We have noted your concerns on the points that many of you made, and I'm sure Vishal will pass it on to some of his colleagues, and maybe yeah, we should soon get to hear how these things get implemented. So that's that, Vishal, and thank you, audience, for being with us. Thank you. Namaste. Good night.
Thank you, Prem. Thanks for having me. And thanks, everyone.
Yeah. Bye bye. Bye.